Hello, welcome back to WFP Reviews. This channel looks at classic British movies and series that still deserve to be seen and enjoyed. To support this content, please subscribe and comment below. This time, we look at the stellar 1939 London Films production of The Four Feathers. It's a tale of personal courage and discovery set against a large historic military campaign. We'll review the movie, look at some astounding production notes, briefly compare it to other versions of the story, and touch on the history behind the events. The Four Feathers started as an adventure novel by A.E.W. Mason back in 1902, and its strong story has led to numerous film versions over the decades. There was a silent film as early as 1915, while the latest version with Heath Ledger came out in 2002. Our version was released in that great year of cinema, 1939, and its epic scope, acting, and production remain impressive to this day. Of the numerous movies based on Mason's novel, this one's widely considered to be the best. The story opens in the late 1800s and follows Harry Faversham. He's the young son of an aristocratic family with centuries of British Army service. We first meet Harry at his birthday dinner, where he is toasted by his father's military cronies, but where he also hears ghastly tales of death on the battlefield that will haunt him. As he reaches manhood, Harry, played by John Clements, takes his expected path. He's engaged to Ethne, the daughter of a general, and is an infantry officer himself. But as the couple celebrate their engagement at a gala ball, fate intervenes as Harry's regiment is ordered to fight in the Sudan. Still troubled by the fears of his youth, Harry reacts by resigning his commission on the eve of his unit's departure.
You're deliberately shirking your duty, sir. I refuse to accept your resignation.
I am within my rights to resign, sir. You cannot refuse.
I never thought I should live to see a Faversham play the coward.
The story walks Harry's character across a tight line here. He's sympathetic, giving the reasons why he should leave the army, yet he's shunned by his friends and even Ethne, who breaks their engagement. This happens when Henry receives a white feather from each of them, 4 in all, marking him as a coward. Confronted by this reality, Faversham has an epiphany and resolves to redeem his reputation. He secretly travels to the war zone on the Nile to do it. Disguising himself, he seeks to rescue his old colleagues from dangers they may face, enabling him to return their feathers. Next, the film focuses on the relationship between Faversham and his old friend Captain John Durrance, played wonderfully by Ralph Richardson. Earlier, we learned that Durrance also loves Ethne, but he nobly stepped aside. In the desert, Harry now finds his old friend when he's in a dangerous spot, but he bravely rescues him while never revealing his identity. Many of these scenes were filmed on location on the Nile River and in the desert. The on-location photography is just one of the strong points of this movie. It's amazing that these scenes, including large set pieces with thousands of extras, were all filmed just months before the start of World War II. Back in the film, Faversham next goes to the dervish capital of Omdurman to save 2 other friends now in captivity. All this happens against the historic background of the Battle of Omdurman, where the dervish army was destroyed when it attacked the Anglo-Egyptian force under Lord Kitchener. This historic setting was a change from the book. Let's see its significance. The 1939 Four Feathers was produced by Alexander Korda, directed by his brother Zoltan, while younger brother Vincent did the production design. The brothers had left Hungary and settled in England. They loved Britain, as only immigrants who are given a new home can love a nation. Alexander Korda started London Films in 1932, and many of its productions celebrate British history and its place in the world. These titles included The Private Life of Henry VIII, Fire over England, The Lion Has Wings, The Drum, and The Four Feathers. Given the Korda's feelings for Britain, it's noteworthy to look at the historic change made in their film. Mason's story and most of the film versions are set in 1885, during the Dervish campaign led by the Mahdi, events dramatized in the movie cartoon. Historically, that was a stain on Britain, as its reluctant response to the crisis led to the death of General Charles Gordon and all his troops and many civilians at Khartoum. However, the Korda version is set in 1898, when the British sent a new force and finally triumphed at the Battle of Omdurman, reclaiming the region. Let's take a quick look at this event that provides the epic climax of the film. The battle outside the Dervish capital had about 25,000 British, Egyptian, and Sudanese regulars facing a Dervish force of about 50,000. The Dervish, who called themselves the Ansar, were now under the Khalifa, as the Mahdi had died many years before, and they opted for a huge frontal attack against Kitchener's better armed force. As depicted in The Four Feathers, the battle is tense and dramatic.
They're rallying again, sir.
Hello! Hello!
Aren't so many of them now. No of us, sir.
By comparison, the version of the battle in Richard Attenborough's Young Winston does a better job of showing the deadly reality of Kitchener's advantage with gunboats and cannon.
Fire!
Also of note, one of those fighting at Omdurman in the cavalry was Winston Churchill. His part in the famous charge of the 21st Lancers was also featured in Young Winston. In our film, after Omdurman, Faversham has proved himself and returns 3 feathers to the men he saved. Back in English society, he must only return Ethne's feather, which he does with a great act of social courage that ends the film with perfect humor. The Korda's Four Feathers has lots to recommend it. It was one of the first color features, photographed in that early warm Technicolor process that isn't realistic, but it looks more vibrant and memorable. The orchestral score by Miklos Rosa is tremendous. It's lush, romantic, and perfectly highlights the action on screen. Four Feathers was one of Rose's first scores, and he'd stay a main player in film, scoring movies from Ben-Hur to The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes decades later. And the acting is top-notch. John Clements is good as the psychologically troubled Faversham, though Ralph Richardson does steal the picture as a tragic Captain Durrance. June Dupree is perfectly elegant as Ethne. She breaks her engagement with Faversham, but Dupree's performance shows Ethne still clearly cares for him as events progress. Next, a big nod has to go to C. Audrey Smith as Ethne's father, General Burrows. Smith was a wonderful character actor who personified Britain's stiff upper lip. This time, he plays the stereotype for laughs as a pompous windbag who supplies Faversham with his final challenge.
Well, I realized the situation in a flash. Almost immediately, one of my subalterns came to me shaking. I said, "What's wrong, Travers?" "I'm afraid to face those guns, sir." I said, "Would you rather face me?"
Finally, the film remains popular because of the strong story and the epic scope of this production. The appeal of Mason's story and its blending of characters and history speaks for itself with the numerous times it's been filmed. What stands out also are Vincent Korda's sets and, especially, the on-location footage filmed with those many extras. These scenes took 3 months to film in the Sudan and were so impressive they were later reused in an inferior retread called Storm Over the Nile. Clearly, The Four Feathers was a movie of its day, as the Kordas used it to unabashedly celebrate Britain and its empire. So, it was a timely coincidence that this flag waver went into general release in the UK in September 1939, on the day after Britain declared war on Germany, launching World War II. Hi, you can see this version of The Four Feathers on many streaming services and sometimes here on YouTube. There's also a very good Criterion version with fine extras on it which I recommend. YouTube also offers some earlier versions of Four Feathers if you want to see one of the silents. After a break, it's good to be back doing these again. So thanks for watching and come back again soon to Waltz, Flicks, Picks.